Hello, my name's Tom and welcome to Historic Cooking. This episode we're going to be looking at a Victorian recipe. We're going to be looking at cheesecakes. So the modern day version of the recipe, we're going to make a vegan cheesecake. Historic Cooking is a show where we make dishes from the past and then I put a modern spin on the recipe. We found this recipe from the book of Household Management by Isabella Beeton. This book was first published in 1861. And it's an extensive guide to running a household in Victorian Britain. So the recipe comes into two stages. First we make the filling, and then we make the pastry, and then we put some flavourings in it as well. The filling is not like a cheesecake recipe as we kind of know it. It's a little bit more like a lemon curd. So the last time we kind of see cheesecakes like the Victorian style is in the 1920s. For some reason they go out of fashion for about 50 years or so. In the 70s is when we start seeing them in cookbooks again, and they look a little bit more like the cheesecakes that we know and love. So to make these Victorian cheesecakes, we have a quarter pound of butter, which is about 114 grams, a full pound of sugar, which is about 454 grams, 6 eggs, we have a block of pastry. The recipe says good puff. We thought we'll just cheat a little bit and just get some pre-made puff pastry. We've also got some lemons. And we're going to use the rind and the juice from them. And then to add as different flavours for these cheesecakes, we're going to do one plain, and then we're going to do one with homemade candy peel. It's quite a simple recipe. You can go and check out my behind the scenes video where I show you how to make some homemade candy peel. We're also going to be putting some almonds, and we've got some sultanas with some di serrano. In the recipe it says about using loaf sugar. We're using castor. It's going to work similar, but it's just going to dissolve a little bit better. The Victorian recipe doesn't have too many guides on actually how to cook the filling. It just says put everything into the pot and then put it on a low fire and cook until the sugar's dissolved. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to pop everything into the pot and then have it on a really, really low heat just because we don't want to scramble the eggs. I'm going to pop our butter in first, and then our sugar, eggs, pop out all of our eggs into this bowl. And then to an ode to one of my favourite YouTube chefs, got a little tiny whisk. And we're just going to whisk these up together. Just going to use a lemon peeler or a potato peeler, just take off the zest here of 2 of the lemons. And we want the juice of 3. In the Herbert's collection we have a lemon juicer. We don't have a lemon juicer here, we're just doing it the old-fashioned way. We've been stirring it what feels like the entire Victorian age, and it's starting to come to the consistency of honey, which is the consistency that we're looking for. Just got to remember that it's still going to set a little bit once it starts cooling down. Cook it low and slow because you want to A, not scramble the eggs, and B, you want to try and make sure the sugar is all dissolved. Using this fine mesh sieve so we can get rid of some of the lemon peel that we popped in there for flavouring. Oh, it's really nice. Basically a lemon curd. There are other recipes out there that do where you curdle some milk and then add it to some cream, but this is this recipe. So we're going to pop this on the back now, and we're going to get our pastry tart cases ready. So the next stage of the Victorian recipe, we are going to get our puff pastry and we're going to fill our tart cases, and then we're going to put some other flavourings inside. If you want to make these yourself and you want to make your own puff pastry, go for it. I think that'd be really, really nice. So we're just going to roll this out. We want it relatively thick. We're rolling it out to about the thickness of about a pound coin or so. So just a few mil thick. And then we've got one of these dishes here that we're going to use. You want to make sure the pastry disc is slightly bigger than your pastry tin. We're just going to pop these in here. If you have got pastry tins that you know that they tend to stick a little bit more, then I would say grease them up a little bit just to help them come out of the tart cases. We're also going to leave this little bit of overhand because when you bake pastry it tends to like shrink a little bit as well, so we don't want it to like shrink too much that the filling then comes out. We're just pushing the pastry out into the side of the cases, not too firmly because you don't want to make any holes or rips or anything. We're going to put some of our flavourings into these little tart cases, and then we're going to pour over the custard on top. some of our homemade candy peel. Oh, that's really firmed up. Into 2 of these. If you want to know how to make your own candy peel, head on over to my channel at Knit Slips, where I've got a behind the scenes video where I also make this homemade candy peel as well. It's super easy and it'll be quite a nice thing to give out around Christmas time. We'll just put our raisins in. So we've just got some of our almonds. We're just going to roughly chop them so they're in little smaller pieces, and then we'll pop them into our tart cases. Our lemon curd has been sitting on the back for a while and has started to thicken up even more and it's started to cool down. The recipe says it makes about 24. It doesn't tell you the size of the tart cases, so my guess is that they're using smaller tart cases. There's quite a lot of filling, so I think the filling might be about right for about 24. So we're going to just spoon this in just about halfway because these are going to cook and they're going to rise, so you don't want to have them too full. If you are making these as well at home and you feel like you're going to forget which way round you've put things, I would say make a little mark at one end of your baking tray, and then just take a photo of it. You can always just remind yourself before you start putting the filling on. And we're going to pop this into the oven about 180 degrees for around 20 minutes. So they'll rise up a little bit and kind of get bubbly and a little bit toasty on the top. So it's been about 25 minutes now, and we're going to take the tarts out of the oven. As you can see, they've puffed up quite a bit. The puff pastry is kind of like expanded a little bit, and you've got some nice kind of golden colouring around here. And all you need to do now is let them cool down. You just got to remember when they do cool down, they will sink a little bit. That's just the nature of them, so don't worry if you do make these. Also, while they're quite warm, we're going to take them out of the tart cases. So I find it a lot easier to take them out when they're still warm rather than they're cold, because if any sugars have dripped down, they're just going to caramelise and like just stick to the tart cases, and it's a nightmare to try and get them off. So these are our Victorian tarts. They've been cooling down for a few hours now, so it's time to try them. These look like they've turned out really well. Doesn't taste anything like a cheesecake, but we know it. It's like a really nice lemony kind of custard tart.
It also really reminds me of pastel de nata, which is like a Portuguese tart, which is filled with egg custard, I think. The almond bits inside are really nice and crunchy as well.
The use of the almond liqueur and the sultanas go super well together. It's not really a cheesecake as we would know it today, and it tastes amazing.
Candy peel really works well with it because it's just another note of citron. Candy peel's got a little bit more like a bitterness to it rather than that really sharpness, so I think it's quite a good complement. Now we're going to do the modern day version of a cheesecake. We're going to do this modern day version as a vegan recipe. We're using only cream cheese. This is a new kind of product that Oatly have done. It's not sponsored, just a really, really good cream cheese. Lotus biscuits for the base because they're vegan, really kind of buttery. They taste really good. They've kind of got like a caramelly kind of flavour to them as well. This is sunflower butter. I've also got this plant-based double cream here. We've got our caster sugar, but we've toasted it. Just gives it a little bit more of a caramelly flavour. To flavour our cheesecake, we've got a little bit of lemon just to give a little nod to our Victorian cheesecakes that we made. We've got some vanilla extract, and then we've got some plain flour and we've got some corn flour. So to start off with the modern day recipe, first of all we're going to get 200 grams of our Lotus biscuits. So we're just going to pulse these a little bit. Loosen those down, and they've kind of become a bit like sand. We've got our vegan butter just on the back. We're just melting that, and then we're going to add that to this, and it's going to help combine it all. Once we've mixed in the butter, we're going to then press it down into our tin. While the butter's like melting at the moment, we'll just prepare our tin. We're using this loaf tin, but if you want to, you can make a round one. So I've just got a big sheet of baking parchment, and then we're just going to cut this down to size. And again, if you want extra security that this is going to come out, you could also grease this tin. There we go, that's all lined up so that when we put this in, you should just be able to lift it out. So we've got our sunflower butter. I'm just going to pour that in there. That's about 50 grams. Just going to tip this into our tin. And then we're just going to press it down with a spatula. You could also use a spoon and make that really quite compact and then quite even as well. You don't want to hand someone a slice where they've got like a thin layer of the biscuit bottom. So we're going to pop this into the oven for about 10 minutes at about 180 degrees. This is just going to like cook the biscuit, give it a little bit more of a toasty flavour and just let it set a little bit as well. So to make our vegan cream cheese filling, we're going to get 3 tubs of this vegan cream cheese. So that's 450 grams. So we're just going to smush some of this cream cheese down, break it up a little bit first. We've also brought this cream cheese to kind of room temperature as well. We took it out of the fridge about an hour or so before we started cooking this dish. We're going to add our toasted sugar. You can just use regular caster sugar if you prefer. And we're going to give this just a good mix, get it all combined. So you want to give this a good mix so the sugar kind of dissolves in the cream cheese. If you run it between your fingers, it shouldn't feel grainy. Now we've been mixing this vegan cream cheese and the sugar together. It's about come to the right consistency, there's no lumps. We're going to add some vanilla, our lemon, so we're just going to put just a little bit of lemon zest. We're just going to give that a little bit of a mix again. And now because we're making a vegan cheesecake and we're not adding eggs, we need a binding agent to try and help keep the cheesecake together. We saved the lemon from when we did the zest and we're going to use that in a second. 20 grams of plain flour and corn flour in here. So we've just taken the biscuit base out of the oven, caramelly and toasty and just really, really nice. I'm just going to pop that on the back. In the meantime, we'll continue with this. So we've got our corn flour and our plain flour in this bowl. We need our knife. And we're just going to squeeze the juice into this flour mixture. So if you don't want this to taste particularly lemony or citrusy, then I would suggest adding water. So we've got some lemon into our flour mixture and we're just going to use our little tiny whisk friends just to mix this up. The reason why you mix this separately and not pop the flour straight into there is so that you don't have any lumps of flour in your main mixture. And now we're just going to whisk really well the flour mixture that's been just added. So the tin has cooled down just a little bit, enough for me to pick it up. So we're just going to pour this mixture into a tin with the biscuit lined. We're just going to give this a little tap just to make sure there's no air bubbles. It's a relatively thick batter, so there shouldn't really be any air bubbles, but you just want to make sure they're gone. We're about to make the compote after this, but if you make the compote before, you could always put some of the compote into this and then give it a little swirl so you can have your flavoured cheesecake as well. But we're going to have it just plain, and we're going to pop this into the oven for about 40 minutes or so, just until there's like a slight goldenness on the top. About 40 minutes, about 170, 180 degrees. For the Monday recipe for the vegan cheesecake, we're also going to make a little blackberry compote as well to go with it. So we're going to use our kind of like slightly extra sugar. You can just use use standard caster sugar if you prefer. We've got a big bag of blackberries here. We've got frozen ones that have defrosted now, and we're also flavouring it with a little bit of vanilla and some star anise. And we're just going to pop it all into the pan. And we're using about a tablespoon of vanilla extract. I'm just going to pop 2 star anise. Wonderful kind of aniseedy flavour. We're going to bring this to the boil first. So we're going to go kind of higher sheets, bring that to a boil and then let it simmer away. Cool, so this is the compote. It's been cooking for about 30 to 40 minutes or so. Just make sure you take out the star anise pieces, or if you use cinnamon, take out the cinnamon sticks. So once your cheesecake is done and it's slightly golden on the top, you want to take it out of the oven and you want to leave it in the tin for about an hour or so. Once it's kind of cooled down in the tin, that's when you can take it out and then just let it cool down on a wire rack. Probably want to leave it for another 2 to 3 hours. You want to let it cool down pretty much all the way down to room temperature. Once it cools down, it starts to firm up a little bit. If you try and cut into it when it's still hot, it's just going to splodge everywhere. We've got our compote here. It's cooled down quite a bit, so we're just going to put a little bit of our compote on. The compote's got a really nice sharpness to it as well, with the aniseed flavour going on. Let's try a little bit of the cheesecake if it helps. So that tastes pretty good. It tastes very similar to like a classic cheesecake. You just don't have the kind of lift that the eggs would give it. Like it would give it a little bit more volume. I think you could just give that to someone and I don't think they would necessarily know that it was a vegan cheesecake. Oatly is a really, really good substitute to like classic cream cheese. Winning combination.
Really tasty. I really like the acidity from the compote, but I feel like the cheesecake itself isn't too acidy. Like the Victorian ones were very lemony, whereas this one, there's like a little bit of lemon in there, but not too much.
I could not tell that this is a vegan cheesecake, first of all. It tastes really amazing. The base is fantastic. Really good choice. The Victorian one is more of a kind of tart, but I would be very happy with either one.
Thank you very much everyone for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and I really hope that you make these as well. If you make the Victorian ones, let us know what flavours that you put inside them. Let us know if you make your own candy peel. If you want to have a go at making your own candy peel, check out my behind the scenes video where I've got a little bit of footage of me making them. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching this on Facebook, don't forget to give us a little follow. If you're watching this on Instagram, give us a follow as well, give it a like. Any platform that you're watching this, share it out. We would love to get more people watching this and trying this at home. If you do make any of the recipes, make sure you tag us in your photos. You can also follow me on @KnitSlips. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. My channel is predominantly knitting, but I also have a podcast where I talk to other crafters and stuff. If you have any other ideas of time periods or other recipes that you would like to see us make, we would love to hear your feedback, so make sure you leave a comment down below. From all of us here at the Herbert Art Gallery and Museum, we hope you all stay safe, and we will see you in the next episode.